Donald Trump promised a play-by-play fact-check response to President Joe Biden's State of the Union, teeing up something of a virtual debate between the two men seeking their re-elections. The former president planned to correct, in rapid response, any and all inaccurate statements from Mr. Biden, particularly anything about the U.S.-Mexico border and what Trump called the weaponization of federal law enforcement. He started his so-called fact checks by incorrectly stating that Biden was substantially late. President Biden arrived a couple of minutes after the 9 p.m. start time.
What makes our moment rare is that freedom and democracy are under attack both at home and overseas at the very same time. Overseas, Putin of Russia is on the march, invading Ukraine and sowing chaos throughout Europe and beyond. If anybody in this room thinks Putin will stop at Ukraine, I assure you he will not. But Ukraine can stop Putin. Ukraine can stop Putin if we stand with Ukraine and provide the weapons that it needs to defend itself. That is all Ukraine is asking. They're not asking for American soldiers. In fact, there are no American soldiers at war in Ukraine, and I'm determined to keep it that way. But now, assistance to Ukraine is being blocked by those who want to walk away from our world leadership. It wasn't long ago when a Republican president named Ronald Reagan thundered, "Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall." Now my predecessor, a former Republican president, tells Putin, quote, "Do whatever the hell you want." That's a quote. A former president actually said that, bowing down to a Russian leader. I think it's outrageous, it's dangerous, and it's unacceptable.
Trump has repeatedly inaccurately described how NATO funding works. There are no bills. Member nations are to spend a minimum of 2% of their gross domestic product on defense. It's not a binding contract. This is what Trump said a month ago.
A big country stood up and said, "Well, sir, if we don't pay and we're attacked by Russia, will you protect us?" I said, "You didn't pay? You're delinquent?" He said, "Yes, let's say that happened. No, I would not protect you. In fact, I would encourage them to do whatever the hell they want. You got to pay. You got to pay your bills."
Just like history watched 3 years ago on January 6th, when insurrectionists stormed this very Capitol and placed a dagger to the throat of American democracy. Many of you were here on that darkest of days. We all saw with our own eyes the insurrectionists were not patriots. They'd come to stop the peaceful transfer of power, to overturn the will of the people. January 6th lies about the 2020 election and the plots to steal the election posed a gravest threat to U.S. democracy since the Civil War. But they failed. You can't love your country only when you win.
Not only was the election not rigged against him, several members of the mob that stormed the U.S. Capitol, fueled by that same lie, came armed with firearms. Recently uncovered footage also shows a man firing a handgun into the air outside the Capitol that day. The U.S. Department of Justice has prosecuted dozens of defendants who were armed with deadly or dangerous weapons, including several who carried firearms. There has not yet been a full accounting of the number of firearms on the Capitol grounds that day.
BPD knows they have an elevated threat in the trees outside of Constitution Avenue. Look for the "Don't Tread on Me" flag, American flag face mask, cowboy boots, weapon on the right side hip.
I got 3 men walking down the street in fatigue while carrying AR-15, copy at 14th and Independent.
In November, my team began serious negotiation with a bipartisan group of senators. The result was a bipartisan bill with the toughest set of border security reforms we've ever seen. Oh, you don't think so? Oh, you don't like that bill, huh? That conservatives got together and said it was a good bill? I'll be darned. That's amazing. That bipartisan bill would hire 1,500 more security agents and officers, 100 more immigration judges to help tackle the backload of 2 million cases, 4,300 more asylum officers, and new policies so they can resolve cases in 6 months instead of 6 years now.
Trump and his allies have repeatedly pointed to numbers on border crossings and the number of illegal immigrants that are not supported by any data. U.S. Customs and Border Protection shows that U.S. officials recorded nearly 8 million encounters at its borders from February 2021, the first full month of Mr. Biden's presidency, to October 2023. But encounters do not mean admissions. Most of those encounters result in expulsions. The recently introduced bipartisan legislation on border security would not allow anyone trying to enter the U.S. without legal permission unless they pass asylum interviews or are detained.
And keep our truly sacred obligation to train and equip those we send into harm's way and care for them and their families when they come home and when they don't. That's why the song Support and Help of Dennis and the VA, I signed the PACT Act. One of the most significant laws ever, helping millions of veterans exposed to toxins who now are battling more than 100 different cancers. Many of them don't come home, but we owe them and their families support. We owe it to ourselves to keep supporting our new health research agency called ARPA-H.
Biden has signed into law what marks the largest health care and benefit expansion in the history of the Veteran Affairs, giving an estimated 3.5 million sick and dying U.S. veterans and service members access to health care and disability benefits. The PACT Act means that multiple cancers, respiratory illnesses, and other conditions are now presumptively linked to a service member's exposure to burn pits during their deployment. It passed into law in August 2022 after years of lobbying by veterans and veteran organizations after September 11th.
Many of you in this chamber and my predecessor are promising to pass a national ban on reproductive freedom. My God, what freedom else would you take away? Look, it's a decision to overturn Roe v. Wade. The Supreme Court majority wrote the following, and with all due respect, justices, women are not without electoral power. Electoral or political power. You're about to realize just how much you get right about that.
Trump nominated 3 conservative justices to the U.S. Supreme Court, ensuring that a conservative supermajority would strike down a decades-long affirmation of a constitutional right to abortion care. The reversal of Roe v. Wade in 2022 opened the door for anti-abortion lawmakers across the U.S. to redefine abortion laws and advance fetal personhood definitions that effectively treat fetuses as children.
And people living with disabilities, so they can stay in their homes and family caregivers can finally get the pay they deserve. Tonight, let's all agree once again to stand up for seniors. Many of my friends on the other side of the aisle want to put Social Security on the chopping block. If anyone here tries to cut Social Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age, I will stop you. The working people who built this country pay more into Social Security than millionaires and billionaires do. It's not fair. We have 2 ways to go. Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the proposal. Oh no. You guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. You're not going to cut another $2 trillion for the super wealth. That's good to hear. I'll protect and strengthen Social Security and make the wealthy pay their fair share.
Dozens of House Republicans backed a 2024 spending plan that would raise the retirement age at which Americans can receive full Social Security benefits to 69, cut the benefits of future beneficiaries by about 13%, and deliver significant changes to the Social Security disability insurance program. Those cuts would amount to $718 billion over 10 years, with more reductions in the years that followed, according to an analysis from the Center for American Progress.
Meanwhile, my predecessor told the NRA he's proud he did nothing on guns when he was president. Oof. After another shooting in Iowa recently, he said, when asked what to do about it, he said, just get over it. There's his quote, just get over it. I say, stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. I'm proud we beat the NRA when I signed the most significant gun safety law in nearly 30 years because of this Congress. We now must beat the NRA again. I'm demanding a ban on assault weapons and high-capacity magazines. Pass universal background checks. None of this. I taught the Second Amendment for 12 years. None of this violates the Second Amendment or vilifies responsible gun owners.
Biden has repeatedly called on Congress to ban assault weapons like AR-15 style rifles that have been used to kill hundreds of people in dozens of mass shootings each year. Outside of that, he has admitted that he has done all he can within his executive authority to combat the proliferation of powerful firearms. The administration and Congress do not plan to take guns away from everyone.